Oh, you came back.
Yes.
Hooray. What are you going to do with the rest of your day? It's almost lunch. Do you have to
Um,
sailing today?
No, I am free of sailing for Saturday and Sunday, but
Cool.
probably maybe hit the beach. It's a really nice day today.
Oh, good. Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Are the beaches pretty nice in Massachusetts? Like well taken care of and
Yeah,
oh, good.
because a lot of them are like conservation land protected for a lot of like the bird and wildlife species.
Oh, cool.
So I live like on the water, so we usually take a boat out to like sand or not sand, whatever. Like low tide islands.
Oh, cool.
So
That's
it's nice. Yeah.
very cool. Very cool.
But they're usually pretty packed, the other beaches. So
Yeah, that makes
but
sense.
very nice. Yeah. Well
And how
kept.
hot is it there? Is it like 80s?
Yeah, it gets pretty cool because it's pretty windy by the ocean.
Okay.
But we had on Tuesday, I think, we had like a huge heat wave. It got up to like 90 something,
Oh my goodness.
but I'm not used to that kind of heat, so it was really hot.
Yeah, I suppose
Yeah.
too, when we go back to Lugano, it's going to be nasty for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I always remember like August and September just being really, I mean, maybe it's also
Really?
because there's no real air conditioning. I don't know about the dorms, if you guys have air conditioning in your dorms, but I
We do not know.
feel like the classrooms are stifling. So.
Yeah.
All right,
But
so
it's weird. Yeah.
let's get back to it. We talked about hunting. Again,
Mhm.
this is a little redundant. I feel like we talked about this earlier. And then urbanization we chatted about earlier, but it comes up again in A4 2.6, deforestation, pollution, diseases, invasive alien species. And so again, what would this look like on an exam? It would be as simple as how are humans, or what are some ways in which humans are contributing to anthropogenic uh, extinction. And so you just like list some. You might have to like outline them. You might have to like briefly describe what deforestation is, but that's
Mhm.
about the extent of what you're required to kind of know about. Do any of these
Okay.
terms or any of these causes, are they confusing or do they all seem pretty straightforward?
They're pretty straightforward, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Again, I find with almost all of ecology, it's just kind of all common sense. And maybe that's because we think about our climate and the environment so much. So you see it in the news and you see it on TV and stuff. So, uh,
Okay.
all right. And then so now we're getting into, okay, we know we've created this huge issue. What are some ways potentially that we might be able to address it or fix it, which is a a good thing to think about. And it's going to take a lot of different resources and it's going to take a lot of different approaches, right? And so we can kind of divide these approaches into two categories. And both of these categories are Latin terms. There's in situ, and then there's ex situ. And so what we really want to do is in situ conservation. And that's when we're conserving huge areas of land and it acts as like an umbrella. And so underneath that umbrella, all those plants and all the fungi and all the mammals and birds and stuff are all kind of covered. And so in the United States, we have a lot of national forests and national parks and state parks, and those are all good examples of in situ conservation. This is easy in America because like America's huge and our population is still relatively low. Obviously, it's going to be much more difficult in places like Switzerland or the UK where the population or India where the population density is much higher. Um,
Mm.
and so here are what the IB has to say about in situ conservation. Um, Basically, we're just allowing animals to stay as normal as possible. And this picture, this image comes from probably the most famous national park in the US. This is from Yellowstone. And so
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I went to Yellowstone a few weeks ago.
a few weeks ago. Awesome. How was it?
It was beautiful. We saw a bunch of buffalo
Cool.
and a black bear, a brown bear, and a grizzly bear and her cub. So
Wow.
cute. A bunch of moose. Yeah, they were so cute.
Well done. And was it just crazy busy or was it manageable?
It was actually very manageable. Like we
Good.
went to the different like the reserves, like the Old Faithful and the paint pots and all those places. And
Yeah.
it wasn't too packed with people, so it's nice.
Was that like so that was straight away after you got back from Switzerland, so like early June?
Yeah, so I came back to Massachusetts for a few days and
Yeah.
then we went to Montana and yeah, for a week. So it was nice.
Cool. Yeah. I like these like in July, it's just pure chaos. And so you must have been
Yeah.
early enough where you beat all the crush of tourists and stuff. That's cool. And
Yeah.
did you see any tourists behaving badly? Did any tourists get injured at all?
Oh no, not that I know of. I think everyone was it seemed like everyone was pretty controlled.
I read something about somebody like I don't know jumping into one of the, like the geological features like I don't know if it was a paint pot or a hot
Oh
spring
yes.
and then the fella like died and then they weren't able to like retrieve his body or something. I don't
Oh
know if
my
that
God.
happened. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I heard that too because people don't believe that the I can't remember what they're called, but the hot springs, there we go. The hot springs are as hot as they actually are.
Ah,
And so they like test them out because they're stupid and then they like burn their hand off or die.
yeah. Turns out they are hot.
Yeah. They do live up to their names.
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's not just a pool of water.
Yeah. All right. So then, um, as we're managing these reserves, we're not necessarily interacting with a lot of the animal species, but we're keeping an eye on a lot of the plant species. Um, and so we're going to try to remove alien species, and more often than not, this is plants. As we're managing these national parks, we're also trying to maybe reintroduce some plants that may have become extinct locally. Um, and then there might be some efforts, like for example, Yellowstone reintroduced buffalo
Yeah.
and protected them. The tricky thing that they're dealing with now is that that herd migrates out of Yellowstone in I think it's in the winter, and so then they're no longer protected. And so
Oh,
the state of Montana or in Wyoming, can people then shoot those bison? I don't think they're allowed to. The same with
right.
wolves. They reintroduced wolves to Yellowstone, which has been a huge success, but wolves have huge territories. And so if those wolves leave Yellowstone, then do they get hunted? Um,
Mhm.
um, there's obviously a ton of efforts to prevent any kind of hunting within national parks or poaching. In Africa, things have gotten really extreme where animals have assigned 24-hour guards. So, like some of the rhinos have essentially a guard that is with them 24 hours a day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Poaching, yeah, it's wild. Um, Sometimes we'll pitch in and we'll help with feeding a little bit,
Mhm.
and then we want to obviously limit human exposure. Um, There's more things that we can do with in situ conservation so we can kind of restore it if it's been degraded, and that's called rewilding. And then the other big category is ex situ. And so this is like less than ideal, but nevertheless, in some cases, it's also beneficial. So ex situ is when you've taken the organisms out of their natural habitat and then you're providing them with a new habitat. And a lot of times that's done for educational purposes, to help people learn more about these plants and animals. Um, and zoos and botanical gardens have a lot of programs where they also kind of will reintroduce animals back into the wild if possible, or plants back into the wild as possible as well. So ex situ, again, not as successful as in situ, but in some
Mhm.
cases, you know, it's all you got. And then if an animal's injured, obviously, like, and they can't live in their wild environment, that's another great thing about zoos or sanctuaries, and that they can live out the rest of their lives. Kids get to see them, they get to learn about them and appreciate them. And it does provide some added benefit. And then there's also this is a relatively new endeavor. There's all of these crazy seed banks or seed arcs. And so scientists have been basically preserving millions of different seeds in these temperature controlled, pressure regulated uh,
Yeah.
warehouses so that if there is like a total ecological collapse, potentially if the earth rebounded, we could replant a lot of these species. So
Oh,
there's
wow.
like a really big one in Norway, I think, and you can go visit it. It's called the Irk. And then there's quite a few in the United States as well.
Cool.
All
Yeah,
right. Oh,
in
good.
my town they do a similar thing, not with plants, but with oysters
Oh,
and
cool.
clams. So they like breed oysters because the oyster population is like very endangered due to like changes in the ocean and their ecosystem.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think they're I want to say they're indicator species. So like they're a good thing to look at if you're concerned about, rises in pollution in an area.
Yeah.
Yeah, any kind of like real primitive marine life is a good place to start. So we're almost there, kiddo. We almost did it. We're at the EDGE program. This is the very last part of A4.2.8. And it basically is a way to provide some extra resources and support for ultra endangered species. All right. And so jump forward here. And so when we look at the EDGE program, which is again is just organisms, typically animals that are just on the verge of going extinct, they have to fit two criteria in order to qualify for this extra support or this extra funding. Um, and the first criteria, is it indeed in danger of going extinct? And then the second is, does it have any close relatives? Is it genetically unique, or perhaps is there a little bit more genetic diversity? And if if a species like a koala or a sloth fits both these criteria, then we're going to work a little bit harder to protect it. With the EDGE program, a lot of the species that are chosen are also very, I guess you'd call them charismatic or appealing to humans. So, like pandas, for example, um, because they get more attention. If people think animals are cute, they're more likely to support them and try to conserve them. And in a sense, this is beneficial to animals that are not so cute because a lot of times animals that are not so cute might live in very close proximity to animals that are, attractive to humans and getting protected. And so it becomes kind of a benefit for those animals that are just in the area around them as well. So in a sense, like pandas are also considered an umbrella species because we work so hard to protect pandas, but there's all sorts of other animals and plants around the pandas that are also unintentionally getting benefited by all the extra efforts we're making for pandas. And so, um, all in all, it's a pretty good program. Um, let's see. And that is about all she wrote on A4.2. Um, Again, if you're focusing on big items, it's really what are the three types of biodiversity? So
Mhm.
species, genetic, and ecosystem. Um, what is the anthropogenic extinction? So how many extinction events have there been, and what's creating the sixth extinction event? Um, what are some examples of animals that have become extinct? And what are some examples of ecosystems that have been wiped out? And then the very last thing is what's the deal with the Simpsons Diversity Index? How do you use it? How do you formulate it? And how can it be applied? And so
Okay.
not pretty straightforward stuff, I think. Do you have any
Yeah.
questions at all? Anything confusing? Anything not making sense?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. So hopefully you got all the notes. And if you didn't get all the notes, you can also double check the answers on Google Classroom.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'll be back here again on next Sunday. Um, and if you can't make it, I'll always record them as well.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you.
We'll have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the beach, and we'll see you later. Oh, and my wife says hi.
Oh,
Hi.
hi, Mrs. Ross.
Chalupa got really good.
Oh,
Hi, sweetie.
I'm waving, but you can't see.
That's okay.
All right. All right.
Hi.
All right. We'll see you later, bud.
I
Bye.
have a good one.
Yeah, take care.